So you might be a little biased. All right. So we are playing a game today, asking people out here to flip through these photos and say if it's racist or not. Okay. And you flip through the photos and just say yes.
These are photos of General Lee, the car.
No.
Is this racist to me?
Let me know, racist or not?
No, ma'am. Of course, yes. The symbol is racist.
So the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard, this car is racist.
I would say yeah.
So are Daisy Dukes racist?
No. Those are great.
Yes or no?
Definitely racist.
That's just confusing.
Kind of confusing, yeah. I like cats, but
Yeah.
no.
No.
Peanut butter jelly is delicious.
Now that is racist. No, just kidding. No.
No.
Heck no.
I don't know. The city of Portland has decided that using peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as an example is a racial microaggression. Some cultures did not grow up eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
So that makes them racist.
Racial, it's microaggressive.
Microaggressive, okay, I guess.
There's different levels to racism.
That's ridiculous because, I mean, I really feel like people have redefined racism. You know, if I have control and power over you, that would be because of the color of your skin, that would be racist. But a sandwich, I mean, people don't even know what words mean anymore. And it's really irritating me, like hatred. Oh, you hate me because you don't agree or you don't like the way I live. That's hatred, you know. So it's silly.
I ain't gonna be no banker's slave. I ain't gonna be no banker's slave. Robbing Peter to pay Paul from the cradle to the grave. I ain't gonna be no banker's slave.
Pretty sure
There you
that's
go,
I'm pretty sure a
little
lot of people are
racist.
not too sure are racist.
Kanye West is just a very confused man.
He's a racist.
Doesn't know.
Okay, so there you go. What is racist and what is not? That's the question of the day that Leanne Macadoodle was out there. Hopefully you're hearing me better. I've adjusted the microphone. I may have adjusted it too much. So there may be back some echo. I won't know until I finish recording the show, and then I can go in and fix it. But it sounds like in my ear that there's a little bit of echo, so let me turn it down. All right, so what's really astonishing about this whole General Lee car thing is I never viewed it that way. I never viewed it as racist, as I'm sure many others haven't. But now you got this guy, this Bubba Watson, and he's out there planning on eliminating it from the iconic purchase of the car that he purchased. This pulp cultural vehicle is going to be changed. He plans on this. He's a 2-time Masters champion. He's planning on taking this Dodge that was in the Duke of Hazzards and getting rid of the Confederate flag. Have we gone overboard? Have we stepped over to the extreme side? I'm thinking we have. This is Francesco Abbruzzino. This is the Uncensored Report. I do everything from the technical to the research to hosting the show, so every aspect of it, to running the social media, just like I do for all my scoop pages, both the national and local. Haven't made hardly any money, especially for the first 5 years. I did it for free, so it's draining. We're going to talk about a few things today. Obviously, Greece is on top of the schedule. We just have to talk about that and about the whole European crisis and how that's going to impact us, especially with their no vote yesterday. I do want to cover the impact of drugs on individuals. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the standing army concept with the police force. Going to try to hit some vaccines, facial recognition, and some fracking news. First, though, we want to start with the headlines. So let's go ahead and get us over to the split screen for that. Some of the headlines that are out there today. Oh, we got doctors are prescribing amphetamines for binge eating. Not sure you need drugs for that. How about just putting down the fork? There you go. Bitcoin, I'm still not sure where I stand with this, but a lot of people are saying maybe Greece should turn to Bitcoin. And a lot of people are out there because they want the Federal Reserve off their back. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It is not the government, folks. It's owned by about 6 international bankers. and they're deciding our future. Why? And then we can't even go in and audit these guys, which is ridiculous. This is a picture here of a bare supermarket shelves in Greece, which we're going to talk about, and how many Americans may be clueless as to what's happening there, thinking it may never happen to us. So hopefully I can set that straight. Austrians, a lot of people are starting to get fed up with the European Union, so they're signing a petition to leave it. I know they have the same feeling in Italy, as I have family there that talks about it on a regular basis. The big fat divorce there. Spy tech will keep Iran in line. Not sure about that. I haven't read this story yet, the women who secretly keep ISIS running. I want to check that out. It's about the women that keep the other slaves in order, from making dinner to having sex and everything for the caliphate. I just read a brief summary and I wanted to look at that further. Greece finance minister, he resigned. This one, I wanted to talk about it. I don't know if I'll have time. It's where the Arizona papers decrying that the border fence is too high, so illegals can't get over it, and we need to make it safer so they can get over it. Are they kidding us? I shake my head there. Puerto Rico, a lot of people are saying, I've covered this a little bit, that it's bigger than what they're letting us to believe, and it's going to be a huge concern, perhaps bigger than the whole Greece fiasco. Let's see what else we got here. All kinds of news on Greece, obviously, and many people are talking about it. I put a post on there about my daughter, her and her friend. They're both 15. Both starting 9th grade, and I asked them, I said, okay, do you know what the 4th is all about, and do you know who we declared our independence? And guess what, they knew it, because I was afraid they'd end up on one of those Mark Dice videos, so I'm relieved that they will not be. Russians make an advance in Alzheimer's, which is a good thing. They're repairing DNA, so that was an interesting article. Let's see. The dismantling of the disunited states, I might talk about that. A lot of states are starting to come in and they want to take away from the federal courts. They think the federal courts or the federalist system has gotten too much power over them, and they want to take it back. And originally it was supposed to be that way, where the states had full power under the guidance of the federal government. But now the federal government is just dictating so much, and a lot of these edicts they're putting out are not sensible. They're politically motivated. You got activist judges that are sitting on the Supreme Court, and it's concerning to many people. Let's see what else we got here. Who lost Iraq, Obama or Bush? Both of those guys, they're idiots. Nuclear power, how a lot of the big heavyweights are betting on nuclear power, gambling with that as the future. Study says obese teen girls are saying no to birth control. So a lot of interesting articles out there over the weekend. North Korea cracking down on the internet. I've always thought they've cracked down on it. I didn't think it was new. A little bit of talk about how the war in Afghanistan hasn't ended. That's getting even worse with the introduction of ISIS into the Afghanistan area. It's really getting hairy over there, and that's about it. So those are your headlines, and let's get you to full screen. And so let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about the different issues that are out there. First, like I said, I wanted to talk about Greece and how it's impacting not just obviously Greece, not just Europe, but America. And so we're going to look at the different impacts that it's having. What they're calling the EU Armageddon, bare supermarkets, runs on the markets, runs on medicine, and all that stuff. So you got this whole thing. It has the possibility to engulf the whole European Union. And we're seeing now with Austria saying, hey, we want out. Italy is next and Austria is not even financially in bad shape. Italy is. So what will happen there? What will happen with the EU's unity, their solidarity, their international standing out there? Another concern is that Russia and Russia's role in Ukraine, Russia's role in helping Greece, which is a very viable. It's something that would benefit Russia tremendously. They're also talking about Britain and their attempts to essentially change their relationship with the EU and pull out. And then the other huge impact that you're seeing primarily from countries like Greece, Spain, primarily Italy, is the immigration crisis and the fact that the other EU countries want Italy to take in these immigrants, but they're not financially supporting it, which is causing some great issue. But the biggest issue right now is obviously the Greece default. Will crash the euro? What will happen to the economy? What are the long-term consequences of a Greek exit? It's unprecedented. What do we do? And it's not like they're huge. They only account for 2% of the euro zone's economic output. And it's not a huge deal. What the big deal is the fact that they owe $220 billion to the EU. And they say to the EU, but it's not EU. It's to the bankers, and primarily the French and German bankers that made these loans that they knew they were going to get paid back, but they loaned out the money. It's a big Ponzi scheme out there, folks. And so the EU prestige is at risk here. The Greeks are blaming the Germans. Everyone else is saying no, it's the Greeks. It's you got the Keynesian economists out there. They're blaming the obsession with austerity. And what this whole episode has shown is that the EU founders were delusional when they declared that the membership of the euro was unbreakable, because right now it looks breakable. You see destabilization. You see the economic collapse of Greece. And so what will Greece do? What if they turn to Russia for help? In exchange, they could sit there and veto the next round of EU sanctions against Moscow, or even offer access to naval facilities that the United States once used to have. Why not? We're encroaching upon Russia. Do you think they don't want to encroach upon us? Do you think they wouldn't mind going over to the EU, sitting there on the Mediterranean? Like I said, the whole boat people crisis, it's a divisive issue over there in the EU that's causing a lot of concern. Britain won't take any refugees, but they're over there saying, oh, Italy, you should take them in. And what it's doing is this whole crisis is causing a renationalization of decision-making, because they're tired of the European Union dictating what the country should do, dictating what Italy should be doing. And they're trying to push this whole austerity down their throats, which is causing chaos. People are going poor. They're living in poverty, trying to pay back the bankers. And this could happen here. The only reason we're not seeing it here, and we're going to cover in a little bit, is that whole reserve currency thing. That's key. That is key, folks. But it could happen here. A Greek meltdown, a U.S. meltdown. People like Pune are delighted by it. We're freaked out about it. Think about it, especially from the Russian perspective, with all the agitation that the NATO, EU's been doing there. So you got the food. Back to Greece. We got the running of the food. The supermarkets are bled dry. Let me ask you this: if this were to happen, and I'm going to give you more detail. If this were to happen to you, would you have enough food? Jesus, we get a couple inches of rain, people are running to the market. Do you think Walmart will be open after the shelves are depleted? If you understand Greece, you know what's happening. There is no money to fill the shelves. So you got long lines at the ATMs. I think now they can only get out something like 20 euro a day. Hold on one second. I got to send this text. Okay. 20 euro a day. How can anyone live on that? They voted no, though. Essentially, the Greeks came out and said, look, it's more important to us to live in chaos, live in poverty now for a few years, pull ourselves up, get back on our feet in, let's say, I don't know, hypothetically 5 years, versus living through a lifetime of tyranny under the EU's reign of control. We'd rather go through massive shortages of fresh meat, fish, and everything. And you got to keep in mind, the Greek is heavily dependent upon imports of their foods. And they're seeing a 35% turnover in the first couple days of their food. Demands for non-perishables such as pasta, rice, and beans are high. And so a lot of people are concerned over there, especially because of their dependence upon the food. You know, if you have no money, you can't go to Italy and say, we want some food. Italy's going to say, show me the money. Everybody's broke. They're not going to sit there and say, here's some food. We'll work out a credit with you. Your credit side. It's like, if I have bad credit, which I probably do, and I go out and try to buy something, they're not going to just say, here you go, buddy. Take it. We know you can't pay your bills. We know you need austerity, but you don't want to take it. But go ahead. We're going to loan you this money. And, you know, without new money, the other problem is salaries won't be paid. The whole health system's going to stop functioning. Transportation, it's going to break down. But they don't care. They want to go through this versus dealing with the tyranny. Now, I'm not saying austerity shouldn't have been put in. The bottom line is these people want. Just like here in America, they want. And then when they can't get any more, they freak out. They get upset. They want a new government, whatever it be. Think about it. How many millions? I think it's like 70 million people on food stamps. You got Social Security. You got basic welfare. You have Obamacare. You have now free internet. You have Obama phone. And I know George Bush started the Obama phone thing, but it's now been coined the Obama phone. I remember once there was a story, and people lost their food stamps. There was a computer glitch. And it was only one day, and they were freaking out. I played the video on this show. It was amazing how upset people were getting because they had no food. They relied upon the government. This one lady was standing outside a supermarket saying, I got 5 kids to feed. I can't feed them. And I'm thinking, why do you have 5 kids? This is why, you know you're poor. You know you can't afford to take care of these kids. Why are you out there pushing them out? I know it sounds harsh, but come on. We gotta be more responsible as adults. So back over, you got the finance minister. He's basically saying this is economic warfare. We're on a war footing with Europe. He stepped down today. Called it an act of terrorism. So the people went out in the streets. They said, hey, that's it, we're done. A lot of people are concerned that the whole banking system will just shut down shortly if this is allowed to continue, which it obviously is going to now. And so I wanted to reflect on that and see how it could impact America. Because it could. It could. What you're seeing unfold in Greece is eventually going to creep into our neighborhoods. Someday, maybe in a week, maybe 10 years, people may be storming into the supermarkets, desperate to get food and medicine. The essentials. The Greeks never thought it would happen, just like a lot of people here in the States never think it would happen. Greece is a civilized country. They've endured thousands of years of hardship. They're part of this powerful economic alliance called the EU. So most Greeks never imagined that they would be plunged into a multi-year economic depression with bank holidays, long ATM lines, capital controls, people diving into dumpsters looking for food, looking for things to sell. So Will this serve as a wake-up call for millions of clueless Americans? I don't think so. Because most Americans are out there watching major media. They're not listening to alternative media. And they don't really know what's going on in Greece. They'll see a quick 30-second, 60-second blurb on it. But they don't put it all together. We're going down that exact same trail. A lot of people will tell you that our debt numbers are far double that of Greece. And the bottom line is no amount of American exceptionalism is going to help us if we start going down this road. Which many economists, strategists will tell you we're heading down that road. In some cities, like I said earlier with this rain, a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain, people are rushing to the supermarkets. They're trying to get all the supplies, lots of shovels, water, because they don't have any at their location, at their home. And so you got to ask yourself, what's going to happen if we have a crisis like this, a real crisis? The Greeks are basically like us. They're proud, sophisticated people, highly educated. But now, with this collapse, they're feverishly out there trying to find food. They're feverishly out there trying to find cash. How many of you have all your money in the bank and you say, oh, I'll get it, FDIC insured? Yeah, good luck with that one. And what I'm hoping is that we won't continue down this delusional street that we're going down, this state of mind. Someday our store shelves may be emptied. You remember Katrina? They won't get resupplied because supply chains have been cut. The supply lines. Money, capital flow has been cut. Walmart can't go out and buy the food. The people that produce the food can't produce the food to get it to Walmart, even if Walmart could ship the food. So those empty store shelves could happen. The ones you're seeing in Greece could happen here. And I get it. Not everyone has enough money to hoard food. Not everyone in Greece does. People are poor. Poverty is spread. I get it. But that can't happen here, right? Nah. We're the greatest country in the world, right? The greatest nation. But I'm thinking what we saw in 2008. That may have just been a preview. There's so much debt out there, folks. We got some of the greatest debt in the history of this planet. But for some reason, Americans don't want to believe it. They want to think that we're going to be the biggest, baddest USA. The dollar's not going to collapse. We're Americans. This can never happen. We'll have a recession, nothing more. So all I'm asking is that you prepare. When it comes to preparation, you need to ensure that you'll have shelter, a home, hopefully, food. I have 6 months supply of that dried vacuum-packed food, water. I got to get more water, but I have a good supply of water, and I have these little straws, life straws, I think they're called, where you could drink out of a polluted water, and it basically filters them. And security, obviously, I have my guns. I have a ton of ammo. And what you're going to have to see is that during an emergency, every single one of us is going to need a roof over our heads, food on the table, clean water to drink, some kind of backup source of power, which is going to be a tough one. And we're going to need to defend our families. Those are the basic things. And for those of you who are out there and you say, hey, look, I still trust the system, I'm going to urge you, look at Greece. Look at Greece. They're plunged into a full-blown economic collapse. And that could happen here in the States. Folks. All right, we're going to take a quick break so I can set up for the next segment, and we'll be right back. Okay, I did what I always do, which I didn't mean to spend 25 minutes on that. So let's see what we can get covered here. I did want to talk a little bit about drug abuse. Just the impact of drugs on societies, on families, financially, emotionally. It's hard. You know, I know someone that's been with someone for 30 years, and the person's off the wagon, and it's hard on him. He's had to ask the individual to leave, and doesn't talk to anyone. The kids are very upset, not really at the leaving, at just the decisions that have been made by the person that's abusing the drugs. The negative consequences of drugs affects everybody, folks. Not just the person that's abusing the drugs, but their families, friends, businesses. You know, and you can't quantify it, but it's an astronomical amount of money every year. And the most obvious effects of the drug abuse is, the ill-heal, sickness, devastating to an abuser's health, especially with these meth heads out there. You got so many different drinks. What's that new one? I just posted something on. Flakka. How about the kids of individuals who abuse drugs? Often abused or neglected. You know, my friend's situation, they have a solid person there. The person that is watching the kids, the father, only smoked the pot when he was like 18. The guy's like 50 now. And he doesn't get it. He doesn't get how someone could do that. It causes a lot of physical, emotional abuse. And the risk to the children is even greater when it's involving some type of illicit drug, such as meth. I know another person, and my daughter used to be friends with her daughter. I stopped that, but her mom's a meth head. And we found out down the road when I went to drop the girl off. I saw where she lived. I saw the conditions. I saw the boyfriend. And I'm like, something's not right here. And then we did some more research, because locally I have a lot of contacts. I know a lot of people. And I found out that the person is a meth head. And I'm like, and her daughter, unfortunately, my daughter's age, is going down a destructive path. I had to stop my daughter from hanging with her, but I feel sorry for the kid. She has no father there. The mother's out on meth. The kid's running rampant. So, for the love of God, I wish there was a way to look at these abusers in the eyes and just say, think of others. Think of family members. Think of the kids. Too many times they always come back saying, oh, you don't understand, it's a disease. Wah. Don't give up. I mean, they try to play to your emotions to get your sympathy. And it's like, God, give me a break, man. Give me a break. Okay, that's enough on that. That's just bringing me down. I did want to talk about what Americans think about the economic inequality, or the perceived economic inequality that's out there. And are Americans disturbed by the growing economic inequality out there? They're saying the middle class is starting to disappear. There's numerous surveys out there, as this article reflects upon. This article is from Common Dreams. And they talk about the gap between the wealthy and the poor and how it's grown. And many of the respondents, about 63%, this says, believe the wealth of the United States should be distributed more evenly. And I don't get that. You know, myself, I went to college. Actually, I paid for it all myself. No help. I went into the Navy. I should say they helped me, so I can't say I did it all by myself. I went into the Navy, and I got financial help to go to school. While in the Navy, I went to night school every single night. I went during the summer, all the time, 4 days a week, 7 to 10. And in some cases, I had to drive almost an hour up to the University of Maryland. I started my master's work, but I ended up getting out of the Navy and had to find another job and just got distracted and never went back to finish it. Then, I went out, did the corporate America thing, GTE, Alltel, and started my business, Telephonics, and it's been a lot of hard work. So why shouldn't I reap the benefits of it? Why should somebody that decided to stay home, decided not to work? I have a family member. She never works, claims disability all the time. Why should she be equal to me in terms of revenue brought in? I have another sister that worked for me, got upset that what I was paying her and thought she should get half of what my company brings in. And all she did was just your basic stuff. But where does this come from? This mentality of, inequality. We deserve what you're getting. I get that they desire to share the wealth more equally. I get that. And that wealth, riches are amassed unfairly. Yes, that does happen a lot. There are a lot of people, especially real wealthy people, that are amassing fortunes unfairly. And by no means, I'm not wealthy. The other thing is just the overall confidence in businesses. It's down. The employees, just like my sister, they think they should get a huger piece of it. And they should, and there's profit sharing and stuff like that. But what about the innovators? The people that went out and decided to take the action? The people that put forth the risk? So now you got more people out there that are supporting government programs. They want government programs to help them out. Obamacare, Obama phone, food stamps. And I get that the economy's bad and a lot of people's need this helping hand. But we can't sustain it. As a country, we cannot sustain this. And so it's a little unraveling. That was just something I saw. It was an article, and I feel for these people. I feel for them. I've been there. I've been rich. I've been homeless. I get the fear you have when you don't know where the next dollar is going to come from. I get it, folks. I get it. All right, I did want to cover this, and this is just about something that I've been hitting hard, and it's that whole nationalization of the police, police actions, why police continue to do things, and the inaction by their superiors, which is opening the door for them to continue down this road. And again, you always got to preface it. I don't hate cops, and I don't. The majority of them are good, but a lot of them are going down the wrong road because they're indoctrinated into this mentality that we're militarized. And there's this story that happened back in July. It was in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Natural Resources. And who's this article from? Counter-Current. So they sent these officers, 13 of them, into a no-kill animal shelter. And there was 13 officers. They were there to execute a paramilitary raid. So they go in there, and the crime was that this shelter, this no-kill shelter, was harboring a fawn that had been abandoned by her mom, and they named it Giggles. The shelter intended to turn the animal over to wildlife the next day, but that was not good enough for the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and because they essentially forbid ownership of any wildlife or possession of wildlife, so they sent this heavily armed team. And you got to think, why does the DNR have a paramilitary? So they sent them in there and to capture and euthanize this wild animal. And there's cases like that happening all over ago. And the fact is, we didn't see this a generation ago. A generation ago, situations like this would not elicited such a violent response. Would not have elicited having people that look like they're geared up to go into Iraq busting through your door. And it's almost like the police, and this is this guy Balkel that's talking in the interview, and he makes some good points. It's like it's that the modern day police are almost unconstitutional because the founders probably never dreamed up that you'd have some kind of police force as a standing army. And just before the Civil War, the Revolution, I mean, it wasn't the stationing of British troops in the colonies that irked the Patriots. It was the fact that England was trying to use troops for everyday law enforcement. So we got that's where the whole Third Amendment came in. That Americans will not be forced to house soldiers. Forbids quartering of troops is how the actual terminology is. But it's really litigated. And I don't even think the Supreme Court has ever heard anything. But it's in the Bill of Rights. And it's in there because the largest concern was the standing army could be used for those purposes. During Prohibition, we almost had Henry Ford. He was encouraging federal officials out there to use military force to push some ill-conceived law. You know, Prohibition, but they ended up repealing it. And they didn't use the standing force that Ford was trying to get pushed. So the trend towards police militarization, it didn't begin really until the 60s when you had SWAT come out with Gates, and he started over during the riots there. What was it? The Rots riots. He formed this elite troop. They went and they trained with Marines at Camp Pendleton. They were deployed in 69 during the race riots. They went into the Black Panthers for the first time. That was one of their first tasks. Major shootout. Nobody died from it, but that's when we first started seeing this type of activity. And they basically have continued on ever since then. So then you get the drug war. The drug war kicks in, and it gets much worse. And they've just evolved from then. You got the government supplying all kinds of weapons to them. And that's the biggest fear with this whole nationalization thing is, you know, you had the government come in. They're basically supplying all this military-grade equipment to the police. The police have gone from protect and serve to a paramilitary, basically. If you look at how the garb they have on, they're fully loaded. They could go into Iraq essentially with the weaponaries that they're carrying. And then who's supplying it? The federal government. What's the next thing? Nationalization. And they won't come out and just, like I said the other day on the show, they won't come out and call it the nationalized police. They'll come out and say, look, you got to follow our edicts, our federal way of doing business, of running your police force, or you're not going to get X. You're not going to get funding. You're not going to get military-grade equipment. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. The lack of support. So they're not going to call it the nationalization of police. And this Balko guy comes up with some suggestions on how to reverse this whole trend of militarization, and they make sense. One is just that you don't use SWAT teams for everyday occurrences. I forget the actual number. It's in the hundreds of number of SWAT team involvement in raids each year. It's in the hundreds. But instead, why not just use them on for regulatory inspections? record the raids so that you got documentation as to what is happening. You know, why are you using divisionary devices such as flash gang grenades? And it's not going to be easy. You're not going to get public buy-in on something like that. But it makes a whole lot of sense. Stop the whole, God, what is that program where the national purchase of the weapons, I-9, I forget. I've covered in detail, but for some reason I can't think. Just different ideas like that, different perspective. And, you know, my biggest issue, that's just on the nationalization. You know, they started as SWAT, they moved up, they progressed. You got the drug war, you got the supplying of all the extra equipment and surplus weaponry from the Iraq war and different wars. So, hey, what do we do with it? We funnel it down to the police at discounted pricing. And you have these situations that have occurred lately, Ferguson and everything else, and so now the Obama's like, let's do some kind of national edict. We pass that down. You either follow it or you lose all these benefits. Next thing you know, they're not nationalizing police. They're just putting out the information that you need to follow, or you're screwed. And then you have, just at the local level, one of my biggest concerns is disciplinary. I don't know if it's the unions, if it's the soft chiefs or whatever. And I've explained the story where I was at the chamber. I was just sitting up against the wall trying to get pictures, doing a job for a local scoop paper I do. And the officer's like, you can't stand there. I'm like, why? It's a fire hazard. And I was up against the wall. This officer was standing up against the door, blocking the door. I'm like, well, how's me being up against this wall out of everyone's way more of a fire hazard than you stand there? Well, I'm working. Well, I'm working here too. And his work consisted of just standing there making sure no freaks came in to shoot everybody up. So I said, fine. I got pissed. I left. I wrote the city. I said, what's the policy? Is this a fire hazard? No. She said, but let's make sure. Ask the fire marshal. We asked them. The fire marshal came back in a detailed email saying no. So I wrote the chief, who I know, and I said, look, hey, I don't know if this guy did it because I got my tattoos at the time. My hair was a little longer. I wore ripped jeans and a T-shirt and flip-flops. If he just thought I was some scumbag and be a jerk to me, or if he knew who I was, because in this area, a lot of people know me. I have like 60,000 fans on my blog where I communicate news, political stuff, just like at the national level. And he just wanted to be a jerk to me because of that. I don't know what the reasoning was. And I said, as you can see from the fire marshal and from the city of Venice, he was not correct. I feel like, A, he didn't listen. B, he abused his power. He sat there and said, hey, I'm a cop. I say you can't do this, so you can't do it. Chief wrote back and said, I'm on vacation. I'll have my captain get back to you, which he never did. And I know that guy too, Matt Mueller. But he never got back to me. And, the whole point was follow-up. I don't know if this guy was talked to, if he was corrected. Nobody told me. Is he going to continue to do this stuff? And that's the thing that a lot of us have, is that action's not being taken behind the scenes. And I don't know if it's the unions or the chiefs or what. I think a lot of it has to do with the unions, and they're limited. It's a lot like the VA. That guy came in, he wants to fire primarily 35 people, but there's over 1,000 that need to be let go, but he can't. He has to go through some court process just to get rid of this federal employee. And I think that's what the situation is with these local police units. It makes it so difficult to take disciplinary action or to get someone to stop doing stuff, so they're just running rogue. And it's sad. All right, folks. Hopefully I did okay. This, believe it or not, I just sat there and read like 5-6 stories, and I said, hey, let me talk about them. I didn't really prepare. So I'm not sure how good this show's going to turn out. Hopefully it's good. This is Francesco Abbruzzino. This is the Uncensored Report. You can go to the uncensoredreport.com to see previous interviews, my rogue rants or like 5-minute rants or previous shows. Also, you can go to the same site to get my national news, or you can just go to the scoopnationalnews.com. All right, everybody, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.